There's a lot going on in this movie.
It was like I was watching it for the first time.
I like this movie.
It has a special place in my heart.
Very close to my heart.
This was a good one.
I want to like this movie.
What? Seriously?
I loved it.
Very flat, kind of boring.
This movie blows me away. This movie turns me on.
Terrible. It is terrible. All these keys everywhere. Influences, baby.
Huge fan.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Hello and welcome out there in podcast and YouTube land. We are so happy that you have found Johnny Has the Keys, which is a podcast and YouTube channel where two guys sit around. We talk about horror movies, science fiction movies, sometimes television series, key influences on the particular topic of the episode, and then things that topic influenced going forward in time, so to speak. We've been doing it for quite a few years, but if you're new to us, we would love to get to know you better. And thank you for listening to us. If you like what you hear or see, give us a comment down below, or ring the bell, or subscribe, or do all those things that you'll find out about us. We've been doing it for quite a few years. We're over 100 episodes, which is always great. And we also have Patreon if you want to support us that way, but we'll talk more about that at the end of the episode. If you're rejoining us, welcome back. We hope you'll enjoy today as much as you've enjoyed the past episodes. My name's David, here with Tim. Tim, how you been doing? What have you been? We usually start by saying, hey, what's been going on in your genre world? And since you're the horror guy.
First, I have to comment on we have done over 100 episodes. We are doing our 250th episode on
that one.
May 5th.
Woohoo!
So that will be a special one coming up. But right now, we are still in the midst of winter. We'll be there shortly, though. As far as my genre week, I've been diving into some newer horror movies. You know me, I'm always lost in the land of Turner Classic. But I decided that I would catch up a little bit on Shudder, and I watched a little movie called Daddy's Head.
Lovely. So lovely.
To me, the title alone said, oh, you need to watch. There's going to be something really weird with that title. It's a British movie. I liked it a lot. It's a slow burn. You know, I like slow burns. It is truly frightening in places, mainly because the creature itself is very spider-like with, guess what? A human head.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You went there again?
I think I'm going to do this as a double feature with Possum next season.
Oh my God. Hell no. Oh my gosh.
It's directed by a guy named Benjamin Barfoot. He is a self-taught British filmmaker. I am unfamiliar with him completely or anything else he's done, but the cast is great. It includes Rupert Turnbull, who is this rich boy who has lost both of his parents tragically, and Julia Brown is his stepmother and his sole relation because she's his stepmother for a short period of time while she's married to this rich guy, and then he dies and there's no other relations. All of a sudden she's got a son she never really had. So you've got an interesting subplot going on with the horror. And you know how that always enriches a horror movie to have some deeply human stuff in there as well. The short synopsis is a boy and his widowed stepmother find themselves in fear for their lives after they are visited by an unexplainable creature which appears to mimic the boy's recently deceased father. At one point, you think it's an animal because it gets in the house and it's very fast. But it's definitely, if it's of this earth, it's of folk horror earth because I don't know. I've never seen anything like it before. It scores 87% on Shudder with 31 reviews. That's another reason why I gave it a whirl, because it was high. I think I would probably rank it a little bit higher. I definitely want to see it again. It's very original, And like I said, there's more than just the horror going on. You have the dramatic elements as well. So I would definitely recommend it and put it on our list.
Hmm. Not only a spider with a human head and
A creepy
fast.
looking human head, like a mask of his
Perfect.
father, basically. It's weird.
Perfect. Just perfect. I can't wait to watch that one. Put it on my list right now. Let me jot that down. No,
Okay.
no, I won't be. I won't be watching that probably because those of you who know me know that I'm fine with little spiders. I can even take an infestation like 7 million little spiders. I can take a giant spider like tarantula. Anywhere in between, I'm iffy on those.
What if I
Be
picked a
ready.
movie that also had closed shower curtains, clowns, and oh,
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, British Children. That's it.
And British children, mommy, daddy. Yeah, no.
I'm going to get on your nerve next season.
You're already putting the list together.
Hey, I tell you what, I
Whatever.
have been watching a lot. I've been editing a lot of promos for this season, looking at my genre things. I'm like, I should probably just put that on the list. So, what about
I,
you?
for moi, used a different medium. You got me turned on a couple of years ago to audiobooks, and I had adamantly opposed audiobooks. I do like the smell of books. I like holding a book in my hand. I like having it. But with travel, I hate carrying a frickin' 700-page novel on an airplane or in an airport or whatever. And so I started using my iPad or i.e. Kindle app to read. But just like you got me interested in podcasts, you got me interested in audiobooks. So started listening to them and I love a VO guy who's good and good at accents and everything else. And this just happened
Yeah,
to be a perfect storm. I happened to be recommended a series of audiobooks called The Lost Fleet. They're written by a guy named John G. Hemry, Hemry, under the pen name Jack Campbell, because Jack Campbell sounds like a sci-fi writer. It really does. So, and it's interesting. It came up because I was talking with a friend and I was talking about The Expanse and how much I loved The Expanse, the series. And then I listened to all 9 of the novels in audiobook form, and it was awesome. And he said, well, if you like Expanse, you might like Lost Fleet. So I said, okay, looked it up, everything else. This guy is an ex-Navy commander. He was a career naval officer. And then when he got out of the Navy, what am I going to do? I don't know what I want to do. He started writing novels. So this is a very militaristic space combat strategy series, if that makes sense. It's a really, really cool, but you have to really like, how do space battles really work and how do they function? Which I think I've told you that's one of the things that I really liked about Expanse. I had never heard of Expanse till Dan Carey called me up and said, hey, have you watched Expanse? I said, no. And he goes, they get the physics right. It's the first science fiction series I've seen in forever that actually does physics correctly.
okay.
And I went, oh, okay, cool. This is the same way. You don't have fighters going like they are in air. There's no air. There's no reason to do that in space. There's no reason to dive bomb like in Star Wars or any of that. So the strategies of combat in space are totally different. And he's a good whatever, strategy guy.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of that to it, but he explains it really well. In other words, I'm listening to it, and or if I had been reading it, I'd be reading it, but I could follow along and see what these fleets of literally 100, 200, 300 ships are doing in the battle. And it's very cool. Plus the backstory is neat. It's really good. He's got 5 novels in his initial run series of The Lost Fleet, and each one is named after a ship in the fleet. Basically, the story is almost like Battlestar Galactica. You've got an alliance fleet, humans, multi-generations in the future. They have come to a peace talks with an adversary, other humans in other areas that have what are called the syndicate. So they've come to meet them for peace talks. They get ambushed, and the fleet has to slowly try to make its way back to home space, being pursued the entire time by the syndicate fleet. and or their warships and everything
And
else.
Smoking Man.
Right. So, but it's very good. And I really
Okay.
enjoy it. I'm on the fourth novel now. I hope to finish out the series next week. And it's called The Lost Fleet by Jack Campbell, and lots of strategy and fun stuff to it. It's really cool. But it's a chase movie.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of audio. I still read in bed, but a lot of times I have audio going while I'm reading. I walk a lot now that I can.
Yeah.
And I have been listening to, I told you, I've done the first 4 vampire books from Anne Rice over. It's like my 5th time. And that guy, Simon Vance, he is astounding at doing like accents and differentiating character. Frank Muller is another great one if you ever want to do the Dark Tower series. Unfortunately, he died like after the 5th book, and they had to replace him with George Guidall. But those are 3 narrators right there I highly recommend. And I have learned, since I am now publishing my romances in audio, that I don't know if this is the case with sci-fi and horror, but romance readers are so voracious that if they find a narrator they like, they start just buying the stuff that narrator does.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking to cast narrators that I know are really popular, or at least a narrator for one series in particular.
That's great.
Yeah, I've got a list of 5, and I have a number 1. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get them or not. So it's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been sending you like some links to sales and stuff occasionally. Are you getting stuff from Chirp? Because Chirp has great sales if you haven't.
Yep.
It's not just Audible, folks. There's a lot of different audiobook markets out there, and Chirp is definitely a front runner. So
yeah.
Anyway.
And these guys this series is narrated by a narrator named Christian Rummel, Rummel. And so far I've counted 12 different accents he's using during it. Yeah. He's great. He's really good. And the fact that you're able as a voice actor to separate the narration from the characters without the he said, she said, they said, you're able to differentiate your, I guess what you would call your neutral voice, which is your narrator voice, from those characters. So like one of the characters in this thinks a lot. The commander of the fleet thinks a lot to himself. And just the inflection and the way he does his voice, you can tell immediately when he's thinking to himself, like it would be in italics, I guess, in the printed page.
It would be. Yeah, I would be if I wrote it, but yeah.
Right. But you can tell like italics section, suddenly dialogue, back to italics.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's really strong. And I think it's really great that there are such good voice actors out there that do it. But
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Very, very cool topic. Well,
yeah.
What does that bring us to today?
Well, my story is basically a big chase series. So that's a good segue.
Did we do these out of order?
Which ones?
No, maybe. I was wondering if we did our genre weeks out of order. It seems like we're backwards. Or am I doing? No, I do the introduction. No,
I did. I introduced the episode. You got to tell us what we're doing.
Oh,
what episode we're
that's
doing.
Right. And I need to do a synopsis. I feel like
because it's a thriller.
It is action packed, folks. Just hold on to your seats because we're doing a hybrid movie from 1975 that back then we were doing all the Burt Reynolds chase movies. Well, this one's a little chase movie called Race with the Devil.
Huh. When you race with the devil, you better be faster than hell.
Is that the tagline?
That is the tagline. I watched the trailer and saw the poster.
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, we'd like to thank our listener, TJ Barwick.
Yeah.
He's actually a friend of mine. His name's Trip. Trip said, I think you need to do Race with the Devil. I was like, that's actually pretty good. Let's do that. You and I, though, talked earlier about a subject that might make for an interesting Patreon, whereas you think you've seen a movie, but you're not 100% sure because you've seen clips of it or you've talked about it or what. And I wasn't sure if I had seen this movie or not. And if I had, it had been a long time ago. Basically, to do a really quick synopsis, you've got two good old boys. I don't know. It's Peter Fonda and Warren Oates. They obviously have like a machine shop and they race motorcycles, and they get a big Winnebago and decide to go on the road for a vacation with their wives slash girlfriends. I'm not really sure, played by Loretta Swit and Laura Parker, and they are out in the wilderness and accidentally witnessed a satanic sacrifice from like a satanic cult. And the rest of the movie is them trying to outrun this cult, which is in pursuit of them and trying to kill them. And that's basically it. There's not much else you can say. The movie is filled with a lot of cliched action sequences because back then people were going to see movies for this reason. Actually, they still do in a way, if you think of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yep.
It is definitely a hybrid movie. It is not an all-out horror movie. There is a lot of car chases and motorcycle stunts and things like that. Had you seen this movie before?
No. I'd never heard of this movie before.
Really? Now that surprises me.
No, I really hadn't. I'm doing research on it. I saw some of the effect it had and everything else, but no, I've never been a big Fonda or Oates fan. I think Easy Rider's good. I think Stripes is hilarious, but
I like Warren Oates. I do like Warren Oates.
I think Warren Oates is in that Jack Nicholson vein of he's really good at that hard-edged guy who has a heart underneath there, but you got to get to it somehow. And that was his shtick in everything. But he did that well. It wasn't that I didn't think he was I don't think either of them is bad in this. What I liked about this movie was, in casting wise, was recognizing some of the actors or actresses and recognizing them and going, wait, where have I seen it? Like the other wife, I was going, I've seen her.
Oh yeah, she's my favorite thing in this movie. Yeah,
and then found out that's Angelique, of course,
Dark Shadows.
From Dark Shadows. So, yeah. But no, I had never seen it before.
Well, I have a weird association with it in that I always want to say it's a television movie, but it was not. It was a theatrical release. I think the reason I remember it is I saw it like the following year on the ABC Movie of the Week or whatever. So I probably saw this when I was 11 years old on television, and I just associate it with TV. But production standards, not much above a television movie.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I think Jack Starrett, the director, he's a television director. That's what he did, and that's what he does, and it's pretty standard. You can easily see this. To me, one of the keys that I've actually got is Duel. This is similar to Duel in the type of photography he does, the way he shoots some stuff, some of the stunts. And I think it's easily confused as a television movie.
But it's not. There's another. It's so funny. It's a hybrid action horror movie, but it's also a hybrid produced movie, I guess you would say, because you have this director that is a television director, but he is also known for doing sensationalism in movies. He directed Cleopatra Jones. Or should I say exploitation movies, not sensational.
Yes.
But he was known for doing that. The writers were also known for doing exploitation movies. Lee Frost did Chain Gang Women and The Thing with Two Heads. And Wes Bishop was his partner for writing. So you have this, I don't know, it was like this TV director that has done some exploitation movies, pairs up with some exploitation movie writers, and takes advantage of the satanic panic of the 1970s. I think that's a good summation of the production, really, of this. I've got that Starrett also replaced the original director when Alan Ladd Jr., who was the head of the studio at 20th Century Fox, was unsatisfied with the dailies. So a lot of his footage was reshot. Lee Frost, that is. So I don't know what Alan Ladd Jr.'s connection was to Jack Starrett. Maybe there was a Fox television branch at the time. Do you know if that is the case?
I do not know.
Okay. And then maybe Alan Ladd just was looking for a stock director somewhere that could fix things. I don't know. Anyway, he fixed it, but it doesn't have an ending at all.
No.
So what are your thoughts? Did you have any thoughts about this movie since it is your first time seeing it?
I equate this with what I would call in my youth and everything else a drive-in movie. It's a drive-in movie.
Oh yeah, I can see that. It's a B movie for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a B movie. I wasn't scared. So to me, it wasn't really a horror movie in that sense of personal peril or whatever. I had more questions than answers in a lot of places in this movie. Like, well, they're from Texas and they're going up to Aspen to ski, but they only get a few hours
Away
up
from
the
Texas.
road
up the road
before it
exactly.
happens. So they're still in frickin' Texas. And obviously, everyone in Texas is a Satanist.
Exactly.
Every town has Satanists.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's subliminal or in my memory somewhere, but this movie is very predictable to me. It could be because I've seen a million movies like it. But like I knew, oh yeah, the gas station's a Satanist. Oh yeah, the couple bringing drinks over, they're Satanists too. I knew that, and you didn't even have to wait an instant. You knew it instantly. It was like, I don't know.
The cop, he's a Satanist. Yeah,
yeah, the cop's a Satanist. Everybody's a Satanist, and they are magically
everywhere.
Everywhere, exactly. They turn up when you least expect them. They are always on your tail.
They are ahead of them, able to get a school bus with kids and a construction crew in order to divert the RV where they need it to go.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
These uber connected Satanists. That's amazing.
And there's other small questions. You were talking about logic, but I noticed it. I watched it twice, actually. It's very short. And there's really not much of a plot at all. They basically leave and are harassed, and then it ends. When they introduce Peter Fonda's character at the motorcycle races, they get out and he says, it didn't go fast enough. I think we need to shave a little off here. Then they say, hey, I got a Winnebago. Let's go on vacation. They hop in the Winnebago. And I'm like, oh, they left his bike. And then you see the thing driving through the city by the Alamo and his bike is on the back of it. I was like, when did they put the bike on there? They just drove off. I just saw them do it.
Well, I assumed that was a different bike. I assumed the bike he was racing in the beginning was like a prototype they were going to sell.
Well, it was a green and white bike that looked exactly the same.
And I get this from my other podcast I listened to with Steve Morris, and he comes from everything from an editing perspective and a directing perspective. And one of the things he said was, every minute of film is expensive. It's important. If it's not putting the plot ahead, cut it out. There's no reason. And they spend way too much riding motorcycles through the hills of Southern California. And I'm going, what? Okay, so is that the only way Peter could get hired? You got him to join this project, is to say, hey, we'll do an entire scene where you can just ride a motorcycle however you want to, and you can race through the.
Was he a big motorcycle rider? I know he was in Easy Rider. I just didn't know the connection there. And
yeah,
I know he was a stoner.
And in research, he liked motorcycles a lot. And
okay.
So I'm sure that was an enticement to him for this. But those motorcycles do not come in handy in any way to the plot.
They do when they want to flip that truck over that's riding on two wheels.
Yeah, for about 10 miles.
So you're wrong there.
No. But
because trucks always ride like that. And what is it with going fast on a motorcycle but doing a wheelie? That just seems very impractical to me.
Right. It seems like it would aerodynamically slow you down.
Right. Because you would flip over backwards. And so why would you do wheelies when you're trying to go fast? Yeah, it's just.
Well, I think you do it to show off. It's the skill set.
You do, because when I was on my bicycle at that age, I was doing the same thing.
But But I did there scenes. There are scenes that I liked
Yes.
in it. I did like. I like the reality of these two drunk husbands, first night of vacation. They see a big bonfire with a bunch of people dancing, and both of them get the binoculars out because it's like,
A
wonder what we're
naked
gonna
woman.
see. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe there's a naked woman over here. Come on.
And there
I like I
was naked people
and there
dancing.
was. That scene was interesting.
So you're talking about the actual ritual that they
The ritual
witness.
and the hook and the hook of,
Mhm.
oh, now we got to get out. We're being chased.
I liked that they didn't have an altar. They just lift her up horizontally and the guy stabs
Yeah.
her in the center. That to me was interesting. I've never seen that before. So,
Didn't
and
they
it's
do
probably
that?
because they couldn't afford the prop.
Didn't they do something similar to that though in the British one we watched with,
The devil rides out.
yeah, with
Oh
the
no, you're talking about
monster?
Curse of the Demon?
Yeah. When
I
they
don't
had the
remember.
when they had the ritual in that, I thought because he saw him in the woods, and I thought that was another one where they just held the person in front of her and he stabbed down into her chest or
Maybe, but I
whatever.
don't think they lifted her.
But no, I don't think they lifted her either.
No.
Anyway, but yeah, I liked this. I liked the fact that they're at the police station garage slash small Mayberry town, and to find out something more about what the runes are, they have to go to the library. I thought that was just, it was so quaint. And they went to the library and then they steal the books.
I know, but honestly, I have a lot to say about this because it's 1975 and those are really shitty parts for women. They get to do nothing. Warren Oates must tell Loretta Swit to make coffee at least 2 or 3 times. And I'm
and breakfast.
right. And I
Yeah.
was like, and this is really what you wanted to do on your leave from MASH? She was on a hit TV show at the time. I think she won
Yeah.
2 Emmys for it. And she's just not good in this at all. Laura Parker's better in this than she is. But,
Well,
and Laura
she's got more character depth in this though too. She's the one that actually gets paranoid and sees everything.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
so that's part, and plus the fact she has the dog.
Yeah,
I would
but
have
the
given
reason
the
I bring
dog
it
for the
up
dog.
is that library scene is really the only thing they do of interest in this movie. That's
Yes.
their only solo scene, basically.
Yep.
So I guess that's why we had the digression, and that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like a very absurd digression.
Well, and every Mayberry library will have books on Satan and
Right.
rituals and rune translations.
Mhm.
Of course, that's what
I
you
love
need.
how they steal them, but we'll just mail them back when we're done.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And then I'll tell you what, the only jump scare in the movie is when they come out of the library and that air horn blast that's like a
Oh,
town
yeah.
siren or something. That scared the shit out of me.
The snake in the cabinet didn't scare us.
Well,
The
that was
jump
going to be
scare?
my scene. The fact that the snake in the cabinet scene lasts so long. I was
Oh
like,
my
how
God.
long can this scene go on?
Oh
And
my
it's actually
God.
more than one snake, but still, because one of them, the best scene or the best scene within that scene is the one that wraps itself on Laura Parker. I thought that looked really real to me. But the whole
They were
thing,
real.
yeah, well, they were. And the whole thing with Peter Fonda and the one on the floor, I got bored quick. That just went
Oh, I
on
was
way
going.
too long.
And they kept doing the same shots. He kept
Yeah,
showing the same shots over and over. And I was going, dude, strike, hit it, kill it, do something, whatever.
right, right.
Yeah,
And
that
what's the
entire sequence went on too
but
long.
what cracks me up is, all right, they get rid of those snakes. I think there's 2 or 3. There may even be 3 that they take outside and kill or whatever. Then they get back in the van or the Winnebago and they say, we need to go. They're like, no, it's dark. We need to wait until it's light. I'm like, fuck that. I am not sleeping in this dark trailer when there was just 3 rattlesnakes in it.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows that? I mean, they did go look in the cabinets again to make sure there were no more, but I was like, snakes can get anywhere. Yeah, I don't think I'd be back in that Winnebago.
Well, the implication was that the Satanists in the RV park, who are all 60 plus years old, like Bad Rosemary's Baby, they're the ones that planted the snakes.
Right.
So,
Because
sure.
they're on walkie talkies with the other ones that are in pursuit.
Right. and ahead of them getting the school bus ready for the
Yes.
for the attendant. Yes. So
Any
there's
more
that.
scenes? Actually, I think that may be all the scenes in the movie, other
I
than
just have
stunts.
Yeah, there's stunts in it.
There's the very last scene, which is like the non-ending scene, where it's the big reveal that everyone you've seen in the movie is a Satanist, and they're all in robes now approaching the Winnebago, and this ring of fire goes around it, surrounding them in the Winnebago. The end.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, what happened?
Well,
I guess they died.
The Satanists caught them, and now they'll be sacrifices to the room
Or they're
god
going to
or
be
whatever.
burned up in that ring of fire. I don't know. I think there's
The
a few
ring of
slow
fire
motion
that they
shots.
drove right into in the middle of nowhere. They just happened to be right there. Because
Yeah.
there is no time, the way he edits it, there is no time for the Satanists to then find them and pour the gasoline around.
No.
It's literally when they turn the engine off, they suddenly start hearing the chanting and the whole thing goes up in flames. And you go,
Yeah.
really? You parked right there, did you?
I don't think I have a picture of that.
Happened to do
No, I
that.
don't.
But as scenes go, I think that would be remembered as a scene. I think the other one would be that extended car chase with the car on the side and with
Mm-hmm.
Peter Fonda doing his Indiana Jones climbing out on everything and on up onto the hood and all that with a shotgun that literally I counted fired 17 times. I went back and watched it again. It only holds 5, guys. And he never reloads. But
he
17.
does duck when there's a tunnel and the other guy gets knocked off.
Yeah, which is clever and that's a good stunt one.
I liked when the guy was trying to get in the door and he goes around that curve and kicks that door and the guy goes flying off a bridge into the river.
Yep.
You also have a car go off a bridge and then explode in midair. It's like, what made that happen?
Yep.
So there's some pretty cool stunts. And back then, of course, that was not CGI. That was all practical. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and Starrett is a stunt director. That's where he comes from. And so he's good at that.
I can talk a little bit about cast. They're all there right behind me, actually. Peter Fonda, as you said, plays Roger Marsh. We know him, of course, from Easy Rider. He is Henry Fonda's son, acting royalty, as well as Jane Fonda's brother. Died not too long ago. Actually, Laura Parker died not too long ago either. Warren Oates died quite a bit ago, and Loretta Swit, I believe, is still with us. I didn't realize Peter Fonda went on to gain some more respectability other than Easy Rider, though. He was nominated for an Oscar for a movie called Yuli's Gold. I've not seen that. Have you seen that?
Yep. I've seen that. And he's good in that. I also remember him from Future World. He was in Future World for science fiction.
Oh, yeah.
And the weird name one, another drive-in movie, Dirty Larry, Crazy Mama,
Mary.
Yeah.
Dirty Larry and Crazy Mary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those. And I always liked him. I thought he definitely had the genes of his father. Mm-hmm. So he was a good actor. I just think he didn't get a lot of roles, I think, because he was more comfortable just being himself.
Well, he was kind of anti-establishment too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Warren Oates plays Frank Stewart. I mentioned he died young. He was only 54 when he died, but we know him from not only Stripes, but he was in the Wild Bunch as well, which is a Sam Peckinpah. You talk about violent stunt-filled movie. That is another one that is a little bit more credible than this. I say that, I cannot laugh. This is the third and most well-known collaboration between Peter Fonda and Warren Oates. Did you know that? They had done 2 other movies together. The first was an eclectic Western called The Hired Hand. And then there was another one. I don't have the damn title. Shit. Sorry.
That's okay.
It says that it was neo-noir, 92 something. Anyway, sorry about that, folks. Neither one of these movies are really that memorable. Loretta Swit played Alice. We know her best as Hot Lips Houlihan from the series MASH, which ran, how long? From 1972 to 1981, like a very long time. And I
11 years, I'm pretty sure.
If I am not mistaken, she won an Emmy the first season and the last season. It seems like she bookended that somehow. But I read a little bit about her. she was very dissatisfied with probably being stuck on MASH, but she's a stage actress, so she probably felt some of this stuff was beneath her. And I just can't imagine how she felt while she was filming this, because this is totally beneath her, I'm sure. During a 72 hiatus, she starred as Chris Cagney in the pilot episode of Cagney. Sorry, not during 72 hiatus, but during a hiatus of MASH. She starred in the pilot for Cagney and Lacey as Cagney. She wanted to leave MASH to play Cagney, and they would not let her out of her contract. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And I'm not going to say much because I think Sharon Glass is a better actress. I love Sharon Glass, who ended up with that part. So Loretta Swit had some bitterness about that.
I compliment Loretta because I think she took the Sally Kellerman role, which was really subjugated in the Altman movie, in the original, and
Right.
she really turned Hot Lips into a more rounded character and did a lot more with her. I think MASH suffered, as we've said before, I think MASH suffered its last like 4 years with everybody being the star and everybody writing and directing.
Every episode has to make you cry. And it's not comedy anymore.
And there's no more villains. Instead, we're preaching every episode.
Right.
But still, I think she did really good, but not in this role. This role was a badly written role to begin with, but she's really, nothing happens.
This movie is pretty misogynistic. It's just only about the men. The women are clearly background characters. So that's disappointing, because when we get to the other star, Laura Parker, who played Kelly, I love her. She never really did much because I think she got typecast. She was so memorable on Dark Shadows, and she was a soap opera actress, and a lot of times soap opera actresses never can make that leap to substantiality, I guess is the word. Guess where she's from?
She is from Knoxville, Tennessee.
She is from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yes.
She's like Adam West. She embraced what she was given, and she wrote Dark Shadows until her death. She wrote books about Angelique. She wrote about her character in fiction novels. And she worked that circuit. She was always with those other actors and actresses, including Jonathan Frid until he died, on those convention circuits, doing those Dark Shadows convention circuits. So was David Selby that played Quentin. So I admire her for that, because there are a lot of people out there, including myself, that are big fans of that show, even though it is ridiculous and hilarious at times. So
to do what it did at the time, I thought was great.
It was. And I thought she was good in this.
I think she's good in this. And she also went on to do a bunch. She did a Night Stalker episode, Hawaii Five-0, Rockford Files.
Television.
I've got the list. Lots of television. And she was an adequate, strong actress.
There she is screaming at a snake.
Very pretty and very, she was able to do what Loretta Swit couldn't, because Loretta Swit's character didn't give her anywhere to go or what to do. Whereas you saw a lot of reaction from, I can't remember her character's name right now, but from her character in this, reacting to the whole situation, reacting to the dog, reacting at the pool, feeling like she's being watched by all these lecherous old men. And so there's I
was going to say, what is the word for nepotism when it's not related, when it's by association and not family? Is there a word for nepotism? Because she's a nepo baby in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know how they got this cast, honestly.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how they got the cast, but I know how they got Laura Parker. Laura was dating the director, Jack Starrett, at the time. She was roommates at Vassar with Jane Fonda. So she had connections to Peter Fonda and the director, which is why she's in this movie, I have a feeling. Because I don't think she did many theatrical movies other than those 2 Dark Shadows movies.
Yeah, I don't think she did any.
It's mostly television, I'm pretty sure. I will say that according to Laura Parker, Loretta Swit, the breakout star of MASH, was not fun to work with. So, and I have a feeling it's because she felt horrible being in this movie that's terribly written for women.
Yeah. Oh, she was in Save the Tiger, the Jack Lemmon movie.
The Jack Lemmon movie? Okay, that's legit. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably her best known role. But but yeah.
There's a few other familiar faces. R.G. Armstrong plays Sheriff Taylor. We know him from Predator, and he was one of the Dick Tracy villains, I'm pretty sure, because he's got a Dick Tracy face.
Yes, he does.
He was best friends with Andy Griffith and died 24 days after Andy died. I thought that was interesting.
Oh.
Clay Tanner played Delbert Jack Henderson. Clay Tanner is the Motor Lodge Satanist. In Rosemary's Baby, he played the devil himself.
Really?
Yeah. So he was in Rosemary's Baby as well. So
I did not know that one. That's
there's
good.
a Rosemary's connection. I'm not going to go through everybody else, but I will say that Paul A. Partain plays Cal Mathers in this movie. He is Franklin, the irritable kid in the wheelchair in Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if he's local and got cast in both or what, but he's been in 2 horror movies, one rather famous. And that's really all I have as far as the rest of the guys are pretty much television actors. If you don't.
Well, I have 2. I have one that connects with that
Okay.
the guy that sells them the shotgun in the store
Mm-hmm.
also sells the chainsaws to Dennis Hopper in Chainsaw 2.
Okay. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but I know Dennis Hopper's in it.
Trivia thing I ran across. And also,
Well, it's ironic that Dennis Hopper's in it and Peter Fonda's in this.
Right.
Yeah.
And the gas station attendant, I immediately recognized him. Went, where have I seen him? Where have I seen him? Where have I said, oh my God, that's the guy from First Blood. So I look him up and go, oh my God, that's the freaking director.
It is the
That's
director.
Jack Starrett.
Right. Well, I meant to say that he is not only a director of exploitation films, he's an actor, and he was also in Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, he played the old guy in Blazing Saddles. Funny guy.
So yeah, I had forgot to mention that when we were doing production. But
and Brian Dennehy, he's really the antagonist in First Blood, but his character, Alt or whatever his name is really, really the bad guy. He's the guy that starts it all. Shave him dry. Go ahead. And that pisses off Rambo. So
right. Oh my gosh. I can't go back and watch Sylvester Stallone movies. I didn't remember that.
We're putting that on the list. No.
This movie? Awards.
Yeah.
Actually, it didn't win anything. It was nominated for the grand prize at the Voyage Fantastic Film Festival in 1976. Now, that was a film festival that was dedicated to horror and sci-fi, I believe, that only lasted for about 20 years. So I'm curious. You would think Jaws would have been the winner that year, maybe. Oh, yeah, he probably was. I don't know who the other nominees were, because 75 I always associate with Jaws more than anything else. So it is not on the 1001 movies you must see before you die. However, I strongly recommend it. No, actually, I don't. But I just want to say this to Tripp. You know I love you, and I appreciate this. I'm very happy that you recommended it. I want you to start doing this on a regular basis. So be thinking about next year.
Yeah, and I want to say, Tripp, I don't know you. I'm not in love with you, but pick a different movie. We would love for you to do it again. Yeah,
Did you have any trivia you wanted to mention before Keys? I have
only thing, I have a few that I found. No, the entire state is not Satanist. That's not trivia. You had one about the original Wes Bishop being the director, and after a week of dailies, they said, no, you got to fire him, get somebody else. But the trivia I had was,
actually, it was Lee Frost. Wes Bishop was the writer. Lee Frost was the original director that Jack Starrett replaced.
I have that Peter Fonda requested and was granted permission to bring his own shotgun. So that is his 25 gauge or round shotgun. I guess he has a free reloading barrel on it or something. And he did the majority of his own stunts, including climbing on top of the RV. That was, he did a lot of those stunts himself.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know what?
Of course, all the motorcycle.
The stunt that blows my mind is when he's going around that track on the motorcycle in the beginning, and he keeps using his foot to hold himself up. I'm like, wouldn't that burn your foot?
All of them do. If you notice, all the riders were using their foot on that lean.
And it's
And
like
I
you're
was
just
going,
dragging your foot on concrete. That's got to burn off the sole of your foot, if anything, or your shoe, if anything.
well, they start out with about 4 inches of heel on
Platforms.
just their left foot. Just
Like Parliament Funkadelic,
yeah,
1975, riding
yeah.
around that track.
Well, my thought
Jungle
was, what if
Boogie.
you put too much pressure on it and it would just jerk your ankle off?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not into it, and I know people are, but it's funny that you mentioned also the fact that he wanted to bring his own shotgun. That sounds like such a classic movie star thing, even though he
Yep.
wasn't one. But it sounds like something his father would have done, or that John Wayne would have done, or something. I don't know. And both his father and John Wayne worked together. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah. Speaking of
uh,
Nepo babies, but yeah, there you go.
yeah, Peter's a real Nepo baby. Laura Parker was just associated to his sister and the director.
Was just a pseudo Nepo baby?
Yeah, I can't. I don't know what the terminology is for that, folks. If there is a term for that, let me know. I've got that.
Non-family nepotism. So yeah.
I've got that a remake was planned for this movie in 2005, written by Drew McSweeney and Scott Swan, with Chris Moore to serve as director. Chris Moore became famous with the show Project Greenlight.
Okay.
So I think it's funny because to me, this is a movie you might want to remake because it's not good and you could probably do better.
Yeah, and I think now if you did it, well, you could even do it with a Ty West period thing if you wanted to and make
For sure.
a statement about satanic panic, or you could modernize it and make it more insidious, scary. These demonologists really raised a demon. So you could do that too, maybe.
Agreed. You want to know what the body count is? This is according to IMDb. I don't know if it's right, but it says 9 humans. The girl sacrificed, 2 in the car that explodes off the bridge, the guy who takes the 12 gauge to the chest, the guy who eats the bridge, and presumably the 4 protagonists. Also, 2 dogs and 2 rattlesnakes. So it was 2 rattlesnakes, not 3.
Yeah, I thought it was 2.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I was thinking for some reason there was a 3rd, but I'm wrong. So yeah, there's your body count there.
And they're very talented snakes. One can just coil up and rattle for about 10 freaking minutes. And the other one, you can stab multiple times with a ski pole and it lives.
Yeah.
It takes it forever.
Yeah. And I read that he got bit, but I think that the snake had been milked or something. So he was okay.
Yeah. When it grabs his leg.
Yeah.
It grabs his leg. Yeah. Keys.
There's a lot when you consider this subgenre of horror, and it was particularly predominant in the 1970s, actually the late 60s, ushered in by people like Charles Manson. You had movies that originated like Rosemary's Baby. That's a classic key, and it's even a key to the actor himself that played the devil, who happens to be in this movie. So Rosemary's Baby's, I would say that an early one.
And then we have the obvious ones I mentioned, Easy Rider, of course, just because motorcycles, the race, being chased, being abused by rednecks, and Duel, which I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
I also have Roger Corman, because this felt like a Roger Corman movie to me.
It sure does. It feels a lot like a Roger Corman movie.
I threw my friends together. We filmed this in 3 weeks. Here we go. But yeah.
I put Mad Max not because of the stunt so much, but because all of a sudden there would be a close-up of a face with really dramatic music. And George Miller used to do that shit all the time in Mad Max.
Yes.
Mad Max in particular, not necessarily the sequels, but definitely Mad Max.
Yeah, definitely. I would give you that one. I also have, for a modern reference, I have John Wick. Why? Kill the dog. They killed the dog. And that makes, that's the one of the, it's their midway point in this story, but it's definitely an action piece.
Yeah. If you want to go to opposites, I went as well. You could probably go even further back than Rosemary's Baby. There's a movie. It's either Universal or RKO called The Seventh Victim that I watched recently. That is, when I mentioned that there had been no early satanic movies, one of our listeners pointed out The Seventh Victim to me. and it's an early one from like the 30s. And I was really blown away to see that he was right. This is a very satanic type movie. But then you got Rosemary's Baby. But if you want to go on the modern end of the spectrum, the most recent one that I can think of is Late Night with the Devil, which also has that 1970s aesthetic. But you mentioned Ty West. So The House of the Devil would probably qualify even more so because they try to capture that 1980 aspect of that film.
Yeah.
And they're all devil movies. Devil, devil, devil.
Would you put Wicker Man in this? In this?
I looked up 70s satanic movies before we started, and I did because I was trying to see if there was something I wasn't thinking of, and I saw the Wicker Man there, and I just really can't. I don't know how to equate it as a key other than the fact that someone is sacrificed, and that does happen in this movie. So
yeah, I don't get
technically,
the key to
I guess
Wicker
you
Man.
could.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I don't get the key to Wicker Man. I do get the key to like Straw Dogs, another Peckinpah, but that kind of being chased, being threatened,
Harassed.
having to fight back at the end and actually kill people. And
Well, and that's what I was going to ask, because technically we could use keys from those type movies that are like violent or stunt driven movies.
Oh yeah,
as well. Like you said, Crazy Larry and Dirty Larry and Crazy Mary. That's a Peter Fonda movie that's very probably similar to this as far as stunts and things.
First Blood, except we root for the protagonist in that, and he's being opposed by the police in that one as opposed to Satanists. But yeah,
I think of those Burt Reynolds movies like Smokey and the Bandit and stuff where they did stupid stunts on the road.
Yes, there's that.
Cars up on two wheels.
As far as stunts and stuff, I have Raiders of the Lost Ark because of the whole climb out the back window, hang on top, blah, blah, blah. It's also very George Miller. Let's have a fight on top and pour gasoline down the air vent or whatever.
Loretta tried to stop them.
Yeah. But you couldn't do that either.
It's liquid.
I have one of my first keys was this music is very Altered States and also Planet of the Apes. It was that real Shostakovich-y funky music. And I looked it up. The composer is Leonard Rosenman, who went on to do Beneath and Battle of the Apes.
Oh, how funny. Did he also do like Night Stalker? Because it reminds me of that too. Kind of.
I didn't see Night Stalker on his list, but I did see Star Trek The Voyage Home, which I thought was weird. But anyway.
Yeah, maybe he started getting some legit cred or something. Another devil movie that I equate directly with this because it came out around the same time is The Devil's Reign, which is on our list and has a cast that screams we have to do this movie, including William Shatner, speaking of. So,
okay.
And it's a devil movie that will likely be in a season to come. So The Devil's Reign, I watched it a few years back and did a genre thing on it.
Okay.
I can't remember who all's in that movie, but when I kept listing the cast members, your jaw just kept dropping. Yeah. It was pretty wild. Anything? Let's see. Before
I have one I copped from I think IMDb. It might have been a documentary too, but there was a movie that came out in 2011 called Drive Angry. It's an action horror film.
I've never heard of that.
Directed by Patrick Lussier, Lussier. And he has said that he was directly influenced by this movie to inspire Drive Angry. And again, it's a couple racing and being chased by Satan worshipers or something. Mm-hmm. So it's very similar. It's not a remake, but it's very similar.
On an action front, and you take away the devil stuff, you could also put Death Proof in there, the one that we opened with this season in Grindhouse. Yeah, for sure. I have, and these are copped from IMDb, that the chase scenes involving the motorhome and its various stages of worsening damage were used as stock footage for an episode of The Fall Guy.
Makes sense.
ABC, shame on you. That is so cheap. Parts of the ominous opening theme sound Parts of the opening theme sound like The Exorcist, which had started a wave of satanic cult movies after the muse of Rosemary's Baby had wore off. I had The Exorcist in there just because it's another devil movie.
Yeah, of course.
And
But
then,
I think it's much more Rosemary's Baby Sentinel-y than it is Exorcist. It's much more like the Sentinel or Rosemary's Baby or whatever.
it's definitely, yeah, I see that as well because it's a cult, basically.
Yeah.
This one I have seen, but I had forgotten. So I copped this from IMDb, and it said Kevin Smith has gone on record to say Race with the Devil was a strong influence on his film Red State. And apparently it was also the basis for a Tamil language film called Kazugu, released in 1981. And then the one that you mentioned, Drive Angry, with Nicolas Cage in 2011. So that's like 3 from different decades that it spawned.
Yeah.
Actually, the Nicolas Cage one and Red State came out the same year, but interesting.
Well, my last one, key-wise, is there's a line in this that is, we're totally self-contained in the RV. I think it's Warren Oates' character that says that. That exact line, Quentin Tarantino said he copped and used in From Dusk Till Dawn. We're totally self-contained in the RV. So that's a Quentin Tarantino reference.
It's more of an Easter egg, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah, he has said that he borrowed that from this movie.
Okay. So there you go. We're in good hands with Quentin.
We are. Do you have more keys?
I don't. That is all I have.
Well, then we want to say hey, thanks to TJ for this suggestion. It would definitely not have been on my list, and I'm so glad that I got to experience it with Tim and go through it. And TJ, now you have to come on and tell us what you think.
Yeah, he will too, because he's on almost weekly.
Yeah, and tell us what you think
comments, that is,
and what you think of our reaction to it and everything else. If you've survived and lasted with us this long on this road to hell, we would love to hear from you. Leave us a review down below or on Apple. Subscribe, join us, do all of those kind of things. And then if you're interested, you can pop over to the website and see any of our 250 almost episodes. Find a title that you like and you'll get the same treatment as what we did today for whatever that title is. We also have a Patreon, like I said, which is a way for you can help support us and keep the podcast going. And we have 2 different special podcast sister casts, I guess you would call them, on that. One is X-Files Declassified, where we go through each episode of X-Files, and the Dilithium Chamber, where we go through original classic, as they call it, Star Trek episodes one by one, and give it the same treatment. What do we think about them? What do we like about them? And we'd love to have suggestions from you guys. Trips was a suggestion. Your guys can be too. Let us know in the comments, what movie should we cover?
We love great movies, but we appreciate the bad ones as well, especially when you get a unique property like today's, which was definitely a time capsule episode.
Oh, totally true. It was that time frame of drive-ins and open roads and motorcycles, cars, chases, do what you want.
And stunts and practical effects.
Just look out for the Satanists, because they're everywhere.
And snakes.
And the snakes, yeah.
Because they will bite you for 2 minutes.
Tim, until next time, hopefully we'll be back in sci-fi world next time.
We will. You have a double feature, I believe, coming up.
Woohoo! It's going to be great next time.
Awesome.
All right. See you then.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.
You can't start the car. Johnny